Have you ever wondered how a black panther struggles to survive in its old age after many years of service in a zoo and being forgotten by everyone? Every creature deserves to be seen and loved, even after going through difficult times. Comment your thoughts below before you hear the full story. In the heart of the United States, nestled behind the steel gates of Evergrove Sanctuary, lived a black panther named Nyoka, a name once whispered in awe by thousands of visitors. For over 2 decades, Nyoka had prowled behind cold iron bars, raised not by the wilderness, but by concrete walls and the echoing sounds of laughter, footsteps, and flashing cameras. Once young and fierce, his eyes glinted like polished amber, and his roars echoed like thunder across the zoo's walkways. But time, as always, is relentless. Now old and worn, Nyoka spent most of his days lying in the same corner, his sleek coat dulled by age, his gaze faded and distant. The crowds no longer gathered to admire him. Tourists raced past his enclosure to see younger, more active animals. He had become a ghost, forgotten behind rusted bars. Keepers like Mara, who had watched him grow for years, still fed him and whispered comfort through the rails. But it was clear, the cage was no longer a life. It was a sentence. One late afternoon, as the sky turned amber and a quiet breeze rustled the nearby oak trees, Mara looked into Nyoka's eyes and saw something more than weariness. She saw longing, a silent cry not for attention, but for freedom. It was then that the staff made the boldest decision of all, to send Nyoka home, to the land of his ancestors, to the wild, to Africa, where even old shadows still deserve one last sunrise. The decision to return Nyoka to the wild wasn't easy. He had known nothing but steel and concrete his entire life, but Evergrove Sanctuary believed he deserved more than a forgotten corner and fading memories. After months of consultation with international wildlife organizations, a plan was set in motion. His destination, the Zawadi Wildlife Reserve, a sprawling stretch of untouched wilderness in southern Kenya, known for its dense forests and sacred reverence for native species. Every detail of Nyoka's transfer was handled with care. His age and failing vision meant he couldn't be simply dropped into the chaos of nature. He needed a space where he could be safe, supported, and free. When the day arrived, there were no parades or flashing cameras like the day he first arrived at the zoo. Just a quiet dawn and a truck pulling away from Evergrove with Mara walking beside it, hand on the bars of his crate. "I'll miss you, old friend," she whispered. Thousands of miles away, deep in the lush heart of Zawadi, 2 experienced conservationists, Kaylin and Juma, waited patiently. They had prepared a secluded area of the forest with fresh water, shade, and gentle terrain. A temporary fence would give Nyoka time to adjust before full release. As the plane landed under the burning African sun, the old panther shifted in his crate. His ears twitched, his nose flared. For the first time in his life, he could smell home. And somewhere deep inside him, something ancient stirred. The sun was high as Kaylin and Juma wheeled Nyoka's crate to the forest's edge, the wind whispering through the tall acacias like a forgotten song. They unlatched the door slowly, then stepped back. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, movement. Nyoka's head emerged, ears flicking, golden eyes narrowing at the burst of light, and the alien scent of soil not soaked in bleach or chlorine, but rich with earth and life. Cautiously, he stepped out. Each paw touched the ground like it might vanish beneath him. He blinked in the bright sunlight, tail low, body tense. This world was vast and wild, and terrifying. No iron ceiling above, no daily routine, only towering trees, distant rustling, and wind that carried no human scent. He crept forward, testing the grass beneath his feet, then paused. A rustle. Instinct surged. He lowered himself into a crouch. Somewhere, a hare darted between shrubs, but Nyoka hesitated. Muscles twitched, then stilled. He had forgotten the rhythm of pursuit. His body remembered the form, but not the function. The rabbit vanished, and Nyoka sat down slowly, his breath heavy, his eyes confused. Juma whispered, "He wants it, but doesn't know how." Later that night, trail cams captured him pacing slowly through the trees, sniffing bark, pressing his cheek to the ground, trying to learn what his blood already knew. He was free now. But freedom, he would discover, is not the same as belonging. Not yet. But the forest was patient. And so was he. 3 days passed. The winds of Zawadi whispered ancient secrets through the trees. But Nyoka, once the shadow of steel and silence, now stumbled beneath the weight of hunger and confusion. He had roamed his fenced forest corner, trying to remember what it meant to survive, to hunt, to be a predator. But every attempt ended in silence, every crouch broken by hesitation. His senses had dulled with age, his vision dimmed, and the jungle, though beautiful, was unforgiving. On the 4th morning, the reserve's drones lost track of his movements. Callan and Juma, worried, grabbed their gear and set off through the underbrush, guided only by broken branches and faint paw prints. Then, they found him. Nyoka lay at the edge of a muddy ravine, half submerged, his sleek coat coated in muck, his ribs showing beneath sagging skin. His breaths were shallow, his eyes half closed. One paw twitched in the mud, as if even in collapse, he refused to surrender. "Is he alive?" Juma whispered. Callan knelt beside the fading panther, fingers gently pressing against his chest. A heartbeat. Weak, but there. Relief surged, but so did urgency. Time was slipping away. They radioed for a support team. Within minutes, a rescue unit arrived with a lightweight winch and stretcher. Working quickly and quietly, they lifted Nyoka from the swamp's grasp. His body was limp, but his soul had not yet left. In that moment, as the crane lifted the frail shadow of a legend, the forest held its breath. And somewhere, hope stirred again. Nyoka's body lay stretched on the canvas stretcher like a shadow undone, his breath shallow, his ribs rising in slow, trembling waves. Callan knelt beside him, whispering steady words as he gently pried mud from the panther's face. Juma prepped a revival shot, his hands moving with urgency but care. The injection slid beneath Nyoka's skin, and within minutes, his chest began to rise more steadily. His ears twitched. "Come on, old king," Callan muttered. "Stay with us." They worked in silence, wiping mud from his paws, cooling his head with damp cloths. The once mighty predator was now barely a flicker of who he had been, skin and bone wrapped in exhaustion. But his heart still beat, and that was enough. After half an hour, Nyoka's eyes fluttered open, Diamond Soy's confused, but alive. Juma quietly placed a slab of fresh meat near his muzzle. The panther sniffed it, then slowly, painfully tore into it. His jaws were slow, but hunger drove him. When he finished, he raised his head, not to growl, but to look, and in that look was something between wonder and recognition. He saw them, and they saw him. Callan stepped back, letting the panther rise on unsteady limbs. Nyoka stood, legs wobbling, but upright. A light breeze caught his coat, now half cleaned, and for the first time, he looked more beast than ghost. A soft, rasping growl escaped his throat, not a threat, but a thank you. The jungle had nearly claimed him. But now, Nyoka had taken his first step back. Morning mist blanketed the Zawadi forest, casting a silvery hush over the canopy. From the shade of a dense fig tree, Callan watched as Nyoka slowly emerged from the underbrush. His gait was still unsteady, but his posture had changed, less hesitant, more grounded. The old panther stopped at a sunlit patch of earth and lay down, his tired limbs easing into the warmth of the soil. He lifted his head and gazed across the clearing, not at prey, but at the open wild that now surrounded him. From a distance, Juma whispered, "He's not just surviving, he's remembering." For a long while, Nyoka didn't move. The breeze tugged gently at his fur, now cleaner and glossier than before. His eyes, though still dim with age, carried something new, recognition. He wasn't in a cage anymore. He wasn't forgotten. He was home. Then, without warning, he turned his head and looked directly at the two men in the distance. Not startled, not aggressive, just present, as if he understood. Kalen swallowed hard, a lump forming in his throat. "He sees us," he said, "not as captors, but as witnesses." Nyoka let out a low rumble, deep and steady, not a roar of power, but of peace. The two men slowly stepped back, leaving Nyoka alone in the clearing, and as they turned to walk away, the old panther laid his head on the earth, eyes half closed, breathing in the scent of trees, freedom, and forgotten dreams rekindled. He was no longer a shadow in a cage. He was Nyoka, and he was home. Days passed in quiet rhythm. Kalen and Juma monitored Nyoka from afar, watching as he slowly adapted to his new realm. The old panther never strayed far from the secluded corner they had prepared, as though the world beyond its edges still felt too large, too wild. But there was progress. He drank from the stream with ease, rolled in the sunlit soil, and at dusk, his deep rumble echoed softly beneath the stars, not a roar of dominance, but a voice reclaiming identity. The team at Zawadi Wildlife Reserve knew that Nyoka wouldn't survive without continued support. So they built a routine, delivering fresh meat every morning to the edge of the trees and checking trail cams to ensure he was still strong enough to move. Each delivery was met with signs of life: paw prints in the mud, bones scattered near the water, and once a long, deliberate scratch on a tree trunk, a message perhaps to the forest. I am still here. Though age had taken his speed and his vision, it hadn't claimed his spirit. Nyoka no longer needed to perform behind glass or metal. He was no exhibit. He was a story of second chances, of dignity reclaimed. Kalen stood one evening watching the tree line where Nyoka often appeared. A low rumble carried through the dusk. He smiled. "He's not just living," he said to Juma. "He's home." And in the vastness of Zawadi, an old shadow finally found peace beneath the trees that once birthed his bloodline. Nyoka's story is more than just the tale of a panther returned to the wild. It's a mirror reflecting the truth about time, captivity, and the enduring will to survive. He wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the strongest. But he was brave enough to take one step into the unknown when every instinct told him to stay in the safety of his cage. And sometimes, that's all it takes to begin again. In a world that often discards the old, the weary, or the forgotten, this story reminds us, dignity is not tied to strength, but to being seen, valued, and given a chance. Kalen and Juma didn't expect Nyoka to thrive overnight. They just knew he deserved the right to try. And that single act of compassion brought a caged soul closer to peace than decades of spectators ever could. Somewhere in the Zawadi Reserve, an old panther still walks beneath moonlight, not to impress a crowd, but simply because he can. So if this story stirred your heart, if it reminded you that even the most faded lives can still shine, please like, share, and subscribe. Because out there, in the silent places of the world, there are still many Nyokas waiting. And they deserve a second chance too.